Hey, we're back. And Brian, I see that we're fine on my screen on my phone. Can you see me okay?
Nope.
Okay. I guess when we get some live comments or audience here, we'll see what's going on. Do you have your own cell phone?
Yep.
Can you see on your own Facebook, or did
Yep.
you not
I don't
share
know.
it?
Something with the feed. I don't know.
I don't know. It's really weird, but whoever's watching right now, if you could let us know if Lynn's all smudged or if you can see me or not, because Brian says he can't see me.
I can't.
He cannot see me right now. And I had changed my background to this, which I thought was pretty cool, which I'm going to change it to right now because I thought it was cool. He goes, "No, Lynn, I can't see you." So
I can't. No.
he cannot see me. So
Nope. Let's move
well,
on.
I can see you, Brian, and you look good as always. So how's that?
Thank you.
Anyhow, so on to whatever. Poor Brian can't see me, and that's okay. It's a good thing he knows what I look like anyways. And so Brian, how was your trip?
It was wheels up to wheels down was 4 days. And I don't think I ran into some people who'd be like, "Hey, did you get a whole bunch of time to see the sights?" And it's like, it wasn't a personal trip. It was a business trip. And so and then, of course, after, people are like, "Well, hey, you never know if you're going to get back, so take extra time." And it's like, okay, well, now I know in the future. But it was strictly a business trip, and just waiting to hear back what's next in the places I might go to. So it was a bucket list item, and I'm humbled by the opportunity.
And you're still on a trip because you can't see Lynn. No, just kidding.
Well,
you see, so it's whatever. I never even think about, because you said before we got on here, you said, "Lynn, it's like a trip because I can't see you." So there you go. You see, it's a mindset.
I mean, come on, a bunch of smush colors and shapes. I mean, come on, let your imagination go with what that might be from.
Well, it's funny because I'm gonna go and I'm gonna upload that picture you said of what it. As we all see it, because everybody knows I'm always saying it's how we all see it. So I'm going to share with everybody your vision of how you see me today here in a minute. But anyhow, the topic that you wanted to speak about today was well, I'm going to put that here in a minute, but you won't be able to see it. But if you want to start talking about the topic.
Yeah, it was something that really came up very quickly for me in my travels, because I turned to be a note-taking person throughout my entire trip, for lessons learned, things to never do again, things to tighten up, and SOPs, or standard operating procedures. I think to some people it might be only a military concept, or it might be something only for management. But we all are in control of managing ourselves. And so, no matter for an entrepreneur, for working for somebody, we still are in control of ourselves. I don't believe in time management, because we can't stop time. But the whole concept about it is to make it very clear about, okay, and you can create something for everything: your travel plans, your daily routine, whatever. Because one of the things we cannot use as a piece of blame or excuse is if we didn't know it existed. That's because we didn't write it down. That's because we didn't review it often. And like in a business situation, where if you missed a couple steps in the process, well, did you have them documented? And so throughout my entire time in Spain, it was all about writing down how I can tweak this, how I can update this, and what I find in my life is that every single piece of my world is about an SOP, and it's really fun to look for vulnerabilities, to look for opportunities, and then looking to tighten whatever those things are. And so that's the purpose of today's show.
So, and I just want to laugh, because even if you have a standard operating procedure, and this is comical, because today we get on and we check how we're doing. And today, this is what Brian saw, and I saw it fine, but this is Brian's perspective of what he sees. And are you still seeing this, Brian?
Yeah, I am. Yep.
This is what Brian sees on the screen right now, everybody. So this is Brian's perspective of today. So what we did was, I signed out, I came back in. He signed out, he came back in. It was time to come up live. And I said, Brian, we're just going to have to go live. And we did. And I turned on my phone and I checked, and my feed shows that we're fine. And, but right now he can't see me. He only sees this. And he's going to have to watch a show after to see that that's not what he sees. But again, you see, you can have a standard operating procedure or a recipe or something, and something can go wrong. But how you're going to handle that is going to be, we could have said, well, we're having a problem. We're not going to do the show. We're not going to even try.
Yeah.
Or, we can still try to do this because, later this is going to be a podcast and nobody would see the visual anyway. So we could have that recording, or we could just use it as an excuse, or we can just laugh about it, play it, and nobody will see it, but we still showed up. So going on to what you're saying, and going on to the fact that you said, I probably didn't have notes, or these are things I can do the next time, because even when you do a cast or production, there's always the wrap up party, because, to some people, it's fresh in their mind, but they're like, I don't see why there's a point in doing a wrap up party. But the next time you do a production and you do anything, you want to do it better, be more efficient, and learn from what could have been better, or what worked and what didn't. And so, there's no loss. There's no, just going forward and saying, well, woulda, shoulda, coulda, but to have a documentation of what, and then the memories, you got the follies, you got the things that did go bad, but, you could learn from, or whatever. So, it's just, it's all, if you don't have documentation, you just don't know where you're at and where
and more times than not is, and I only could speak for myself, but it's like when I don't follow a recipe or whatever that is, I just call it a recipe because it might be easier for some people, is that if you miss a step, it doesn't turn into what the picture said or what you wanted to make, right? If you get a meal order service and it's like, wow, that looks like a beautiful meal, and then let's say you left out an ingredient. Well, it may taste good, but it might not look like that if vanity or the presentation of your food is important to you. And so for myself, and I like to speak for myself and maybe check for yourself, is that if you do miss a step in whatever it is and you get mad at yourself, it's probably because you, number one, either didn't have an SOP, or number two, it's all rolling around in here and it hasn't been documented. Because if you don't document it, then you can't create a routine. And if you can't create a routine, then it can't become a discipline. It can't become something that you do every day. And when it comes to flying and travel, there's always going to be dependent variables and independent variables, right? In terms of connection flights, okay, you're always going to have that. Even if you're going round trip, what if the bus service from the airport to wherever you're going only comes a couple times a day? For as much as we firm up and want to make sure that things are perfect, number one, they never will be. Number two, I think it also puts you in a bubble, because life doesn't happen robotically. Well, to some people it might, but if you're going to live a fulfilling life and one that's filled with joy and happiness and love, it's not done in a vacuum. It's done in the moment. And my family has a military background. Plus I've adopted a lot of, I've read a lot of books and studied a lot of, people that share their stories. And so I've embodied that because it's undeniable, right? When you're disciplined, you lean into it. What more can I firm up? And it's amazing to me is that after you go on this quest to create your SOPs, number one, it might be different. Well, anything new is going to be different and maybe a little weird at first, but then simplicity, because along the time when you're updating them and following these SOPs, you're applying them, but also though it's not meant to make you do more work, it's meant to cut down and simplify your life. And I think a lot of people miss that part, is that like, okay, once it becomes second nature, like with automation or whatever, you do the work on the front end and the only time you need to touch it is when you need to update something, but it's the initial thought in the beginning that creates the automation. Now that's just a computer term or, a technology term, but it's kind of the same thing. When you create the SOP up front in terms of how things are going to roll and you set it up there, well, then you can function with it, and then if something doesn't work, you can identify exactly where it's working and where you need to touch it up. And especially traveling overseas with different regulations, different airlines, different airline partners, there's a whole myriad of things that you can get lost in the weeds about. And if you don't document what you've learned in terms of things to check on the next time you go there, it's probably going to be a very unfulfilling, experience, and how much of it can you actually blame on what it is, instead of the actions you did or didn't take to get ready for it.
Right.
So it's a very fascinating thing, but that's a huge lesson, that gets me so fired up every day, because it's like, okay, how many, and I gamify it. How many SOPs can I create in my life? And it's not anything, you can create an iCloud doc, save it on your phone, always update it. But it's like always having your antennas up in terms of what you can move forward.
Right. But and that's the thing though. You can do as many SOPs you want though, but you also though have to be ready to realize that this is just like an outline.
Yep.
But it's not concrete.
No.
You
Always a work in progress.
Yeah, and I mean, because you can be as prepared as you want, but nothing is concrete. Not everything is in your control. And that's one thing, because there's always two components to everything, I mean, so much you can set, but then there's all these other elements that have factors, like the pilots get sick and can't make it because their kid got sick. You can't help any of that.
Correct.
And it delays by a whole day, or, there's a lot of domino effects and things like that. And so, and how are you going to react to that? And how are you going to, shift around that? And I think that's the pitfall some people have, that they don't realize, hey, that's okay. You prepared as best as you can, but you have to flow with whatever else can happen. You know?
I mean, as you were talking, that reminds me of when I was ready to board in O'Hare from the quick jump from Milwaukee to Chicago. And then we waited for our big Airbus 330 plane to show up. Well, it got held up at the U.S. Customs, gate at O'Hare. And it's like, okay, that was something I've never witnessed before because I've never flown internationally. Right. So is that, it's domestically, there are the challenges and whatnot, with different weather, different climate, different airports, different airlines. But then it's a whole nother sphere of potential things you need to consider, right. Customs, the gates, how many people, how much space do you have? Do you want to upgrade your seats? And it's like, I would rather, and you're absolutely correct, is that, like when it comes to preparation for an event, like going back to like theater productions, it's like, okay, your lines, you're very fluid with them. You're doing it with the human side where you're portraying those emotions, but then you reach a certain level where I'm good. You literally tell yourself that it's like, I know my material well enough, but I also, if I go any further, I'm going to remove the human component from it.
Not only that, but what if your person that's next to you don't know their lines and they throw you a curveball and start speaking all sorts of stuff? Where are you going to work with that? How can you move forward from that? Where do you pick up your lines to flow and make a scene, Like,
well, and
how good are you now?
Well, and it's not about it's yes, somebody might have made a mistake, but it doesn't, like they say in improv, the show must go on, right?
Right. So where do you want to pick up the lines for you to pick on from there? Do you know what I mean? So again, so don't be too cocky, or don't you know what I'm saying? Like, did you just end the show, or did you just begin the show, or did you just go with the flow? So I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like it really is it's a give and take. Ebb and flow, it's the, okay, this happened, so what now?
Well, and plus, I mean, how much like if we look at every SOP to a successful outcome, right? Because it's like I think that the more simplified you can make it, it's kind of like chiseling a diamond, right?
Right.
You're not purchasing, or you don't want to see the raw materials, right?
Right.
You want to see the finished product. Well, that's no different than having an SOP.
Right.
And in my opinion, an SOP is something where number one, it's a reminder of what to do. Number two, it's a set of checks and balances, but it's always what's the whole purpose of this?
Right.
Like if it's an onboarding SOP for a new customer, okay, you want to make sure you don't miss any steps. You want to make sure that any automations or whatever are preset. You want to have the technology that you have into place or other SOPs in place, that it all works to harness the customer experience. It all works to giving them the best perception of you, or whatever that is. And so a lot of people just said, "Oh, I got to do these things," and it's like, but look at the long cut.
Right.
Look at if you were to create these now and build on them every moment. But also, though, I think that that's a mindset because you're looking for this stuff. You're
Right.
looking for how can I update this? You know,
Well, I just laughing because it's like, it sounds all stupid or it sounds all mundane or whatever, but it's sometimes the obvious is not the obvious, especially in the chaos, right?
Correct.
Like if you got a pregnant woman says it's time to deliver the baby, right? Let's go get your luggage. Just go get this, get everything in the car. And the husband goes and gets to the hospital and says, shit, I forgot my wife. She's still in the living room. Like, dude, the obvious is not obvious when you panic. You tell somebody call 911 and they're like, what's the number? I'm just being the comedian here right now, but I'm just saying the obvious is, and trust me, I've tried call 911 and not know how to call 911. So I'm talking from experience here. So seriously, but that's what I'm saying is like, and if you're doing a wedding and they wanted a cake and you didn't even order a cake or I mean, or you're traveling and you like to wear underwears with your pants and you don't order underwears and socks. I mean, like that wasn't obvious when you were ready to go. It's like, well, I don't ever do this. I mean, again, it's helping with the basics that you don't think they're basics because you're thinking of the final, I'm going to be there and I'm going to do this. And, it's like, so it's to make where things easier when you're in a position of you can't think. And how many times you want to go somewhere, and this sounds old and we've said it many times, but where's the keys? Where's the keys? Oh, the keys are right in front of you. Or you're playing a game on your phone. Not that I've never done this, but you're playing a game on the phone. Oh, I got to call somebody. Where's my phone? It's all those things that sound dumb, but they're not dumb when you're doing it and you realize,
And I think that that's where the antennas are up.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what I mean by that is like it's another way of saying be present, be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge fan of opportunities, I'm a huge fan of breakthroughs, but none of that's going to happen unless you're in the weeds, so to speak, and not in a bad way. That you're going through certain things and it's like, you know what? If I don't write this down or document this, I'm going to forget it because my brain is moving so fast. I got so much to go through and encode that I need to take this moment and document this now. That'll help me later on, because like case in point, there was a lot of stuff in rehearsal over in Spain at the amphitheater that was not on the run of show. And that was also one of the obstacles to overcome with one of the people on staff at the amphitheater is because after looking at her, when we were doing rehearsal, number one, her seat was not high enough for her to see the stage. Okay. Oh. Now, none of this is wrong. She was just doing what she did. She's a very talented video person, right? But there's a couple things. Number one, she's never worked with this company before. Number two, she has a certain style that may or may not coincide with how this company does events. Okay. Number three is that she's never worked with us before. So it's like you got a whole bunch of new things. But when I was observing her, is that I could see that she was using the run of show as if it was the Holy Grail, when it was just the guide of what we're doing, but the real action. And this is where once I was transparent with her, that it's like when we're watching and looking at what's going on faces and how it feels on stage, then the run of show makes sense because we're just following the steps. But everything happens on the stage, and that is our guide in terms of the timing, the pacing, the cadence, and how everything feels, right? You're not going to get feeling off of something that's just the run of show that you've done a million times. But when everybody claps, what's the lighting look like? And when a guest says, it's like, wow, that happened at the right moment. How did they know? Because it was rehearsed that way. It's no dumb luck that the lighting came up at the right time at the proper intensity to recognize people.
Right.
It's because it's the flow, but it's also being present that, okay, what can I do now to improve this experience? And that's an ongoing thing. What can I do now to make this better? Okay, we are in this show. I'm not going to let's say we miss some things on the in the front part of it. I'm not going to let that burden what I'm doing right in this very moment to make it better.
Exactly.
And so I think that the more simple you make your SOPs, the more simple you go through. And plus, here's the thing: is that it's never perfect. That's the journey. Perfection is an illusion. But when you have documentation of things, you print them out. It's a little hard not to follow the steps when it's all been documented. Plus, it's also reserved if, there's only so much that this can retain up here in the brain, right?
Yeah.
For those of us that are listening to this. And so to have a document of it, and it can be for, what you do on weekends, your Saturday SOP, your Sunday SOP, your Monday morning SOP, whatever that is, but we cannot blame others. We cannot make excuses or any of that if we don't know what we're holding ourselves accountable to.
You got that right. So in wrap up here, I don't know if you could still see me, Brian, because
no. I can see on my phone, but on my laptop.
Oh, you see on the phone we look okay to you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We don't look like, but on here that's what we look. So okay. That's hilarious. All right, so we're going to be wrapping it up here, but any final words before
I'm gonna leave that up to you because this was my topic. So what do you think about what makes a difference for you on this conversation?
Well, like I said, I agree on the standard operating procedures, but like I said, I say don't get hung up with the fact of spending so much to be so detailed oriented on your procedures that you forget there's a lot of curveballs being thrown at you all the time that you get so anal about this chart that like, this isn't on my chart and this isn't what I planned. And you end up getting anxiety by all the crap that's being thrown at you that you're really frustrated because, when you have that list or that, your perfect way things are supposed to go and they don't go that way, then there's other things that are inflicted upon you. It becomes more challenging. And I mean, for some of us to have, depression or, all these other things that we all have elements for, then it's like, it's not fun. It's not, productive. And you don't have to look at it like that. Look at it as a game, or look at it that this was a focus, or look at it like, hey, maybe I can achieve things on this SOP, or, look at it as some focus of maybe I can do these, maybe I don't, or whatever, check off list, or look at it as some kind of, starting point, ending point, or maybe I can start tomorrow, whatever. But don't look at it like, oh, it's something else I have to do, or don't look. Look at it as maybe this is good for you, or maybe it isn't, or it's conducive or not conducive, but don't shun the idea of not having a list of some sort. You might find that this may help you to be more focused than not focused, or more organized. So, I mean, think of it as this is a possible way of being more productive than not productive.
Correct.
I mean, because I know for some people, it might have gave them anxiety to say, gosh, Brian, I can't be sitting here and doing a list. Never did it, not gonna do it. But you can look at this as a fun way, a possible way. This might, you might not have to read those books on how to not be a hoarder no more, because this might work out better for you. I mean, like I said, if what you're doing now isn't working for you, this may be another option for you. Like anything else with any recipe or new foods, you don't know what you don't know, or you don't know you're going to like a new recipe if you didn't even try it. Don't say you don't like it until you've not tried it. I mean, we have a palate to try all different kinds of things. Try it, see if you like it. If you don't like it, then you don't need to do it. So I mean, that's what I say. Don't complain about something until you try it. And if you tried it, didn't work for you, then but don't knock something if you don't know it.
The whole thing about these SOPs to me is to give up any blame or excuse. Number one, that it's all on me, but also what am I doing to harness that? What am I doing to make sure that I don't forget a step? Right. And obviously, the bigger the steps, like you lose a deal, you forgot to do something very important that you promised the customer, right? This is a way of eliminating that, but also though it's simplifying it. Like there there is a reason for this to happen. And it's
Right.
not to make your life complex. It's not for you to, oh, I don't know how to do this. And it's like, okay, if I were to say to you that if this simplifies your life for every part of your business, every part of every day of your life, is that a good thing?
Yeah.
So you're not spending, 12 hours a day doing what you can do in 9 hours.
Right.
There is a benefit, there is a value to this, but you would have to be hard on yourself, just like anything, to go through complexity to make it simple. And,
Exactly.
in that moment when you're enraged, you forgot something, you're in an airport, things are not working out for you, how much would you value an SOP that you followed, updated, and were open to creating? In that very moment when you have frustration, how important would that SOP be in that state of mind?
Right. Well, and this came to mind too, real quick, Brian. It's just like, let's just say if you have your desk is always disorganized, and every time you're looking for something,
Yeah.
you spend 20 minutes looking for it. But just imagine if you spent 2 hours organizing it in a system, the next time you're looking for something, you spend 1 minute looking for it.
Yep.
You have to be you were uncomfortable for 2 hours, but now look at every time you're looking for something, you're saving 20 minutes each time.
That's right.
3 times looking for something, you spent an hour, saved an hour a day looking for 3 things. I mean, so if you look at their time, which is money, if you look at it that way, you see that the 2 hours of discomfort just saved you so many hours in a week.
Right.
So when you start looking at the fine times of being miserable and what it's going to cost you in time later, then you realize miserable for a short time and what it's going to be the value in the long time. Reconsider. And that's what we're trying to say here, because some people, when they hear an advice of something, oh, no, I'm going to change this channel. I'm not listening to Lynn and Brian because this is bullshit. Well, listen to the bullshit for a little bit, and we might have some sense here for you.
Yeah.
And, people that deal with little depression or a bunch of BS, we find things that make it feel better. So I'm just saying.
And one final thing too is that I'm a firm believer, and I don't know who said it, or maybe there's multiple people, but what gets written down or typed out or whatever gets done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's only so much that this little mental ticker known as our brain can take on.
Yeah.
And it's going to fail us. It just will, because it's not perfect. And so when you consider writing something down, and it's like, you cannot blame anybody else. The more important it is if you didn't write it down, because likely out of sight, out of mind.
And we do like to check things off our list.
Correct. Yeah.
At least I do. Because
at this phase of my life, I got more stuff than I'm ever going to be able to get done per day.
Yeah.
But you still got to do it, right? Life doesn't stop.
All right, we're out of here. So you guys have a good one. And some of you guys later, you'll be seeing this. Maybe you won't. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Thanks,
have a good one, guys.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.